So street photography is a lot of fun, especially when you've been out all day and you come back and you're looking at Lightroom and you're seeing all these awesome photos that you've gotten, but they really just don't come to life until you slap an edit on it. You know what I mean? So over the past couple of months, if you've been watching my YouTube shorts, you probably have noticed that I have turned a lot of my street photography images into before and after videos. And you guys really seem to like those. So today I thought that I would walk you through my editing process of how I get my images to have that cinematic feel in Lightroom. So jumping into Lightroom, first things first. Usually what I do with my images is I will crop them and then I will straighten them out with the leveling tool. This image does not need to be cropped. However, it is off just a little bit. So I'm going to come down to the transform module and I'm going to press auto. And it fixes it for me, and I kind of like how that looks. I'm gonna jump up here to where I can do the normal adjustments for the exposure and the white balance, but I'm not gonna really have to do anything with the white balance because I shot this with a cool white balance because I knew that it was cold winter. I kind of tried to get it as best I could in camera before editing it in Lightroom. So I think I'm going to bump up the exposure, probably about a stop, so take it to 0.5. I'm going to bring these highlights down to about here, just to kind of reduce the brightness out of the food truck. I'm gonna bring the whites down to match that as well. And I'm gonna bump up the texture just a little bit. I like to do that because it kind of just brings out the detail just a little bit, nothing too crazy. And then I'm going to bring the vibrance up to about 15. It's kind of standard for most of my photos that I edit. Next, I come down here to the tone curve. If you don't know how to use this, this is where your shadows and your darks are, and here at the top is where your highlights are. And then here in the middle is your midtones. What I usually like to do is I will put a marker right here in the middle in the midtones, kind of put one here at the bottom where the shadows are, and here kind of in the middle where the highlights are. Now, since it is a dark image, I'm going to kind of lift the shadows just a tick. I'm going to bring this down. And if you want, you can press the Alt button and that kind of slows down the movement of your little points. So it gives you a little bit more of some finer control when it comes to editing in the tone curve. Then I'm going to come up here to the highlights. Now I really like to roll the highlights off to kind of give them a flat feel. So I'm going to bring these down. I'm going to kind of roll this off just a little bit. Yeah, that works. I wanted to give it an overall green cast, which would have kind of push it more into that cinematic vibe. So instead of doing it in like all of the HSL sliders and stuff like that, I come over to the red tone curve, grab the midtones here, and then bring it down just a little bit to about right there. So that feels pretty good. While I'm doing this and I'm adding in some green, I'm going to bring the highlights over and then bring those up just a little bit as well. So about right there. And then I'm gonna bring the blending from 50% up to 100. So you can see what effect that has. There we go, when you do the little blending from 50 to 100. Now that I've gotten this image kind of to where I'm kind of wanting it, I wanna think about what is it that I want the viewer to see. So in this image, it's the girl in the middle in the pink jacket. So I really wanna push your eye straight to her. So now I'm going to start doing selective edits and bringing in some masking to really bring her out. First off, get the linear gradient, bring that down. And I really just kind of want to get rid of this little area up here. So I'm going to bring the exposure down, bring the highlights down, and bring the whites down just a little bit. Because I want you to feel that this is there. I just don't want it to be completely gone. So maybe we'll darken it just a little bit more. Okay, then let's grab another linear gradient. Do the same thing here to the wet ground. Let's bring the exposure down, highlights down, and the whites. Yeah, something like that. Okay, awesome. And then I'm gonna jump over and I'm gonna select my subjects. And I am going to lift the contrast just a bit, lift the shadows, pump up the whites, and the highlights just a bit. Due to the highlights being green and the green that we added in with our tone curve, I kind of want to push a little bit of warmth back into them so they don't look dead. So I'm going to bring the temp over to about 10, make it a little bit more warm, and I'm gonna put a little bit of the pink in there as well to kind of help bring back that natural skin tone. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to paint in a mask inside of the food truck so that I can bring down these really bright highlights. Alrighty, we're gonna bring these highlights down. We're going to warm it up just a little bit to kind of reduce that blue. Let's pump a little bit more contrast in there. Bring the shadows down and maybe bring the whites down just a little bit. Okay, and then this guy right here is kind of blending in. He basically just doesn't look like he's really even there. So I'm gonna just kind of darken him up just a little bit. So I'm going to quickly mask him out and then kind of darken him a little bit as well. Okay, and we'll push a little bit of the blacks in there. We'll warm it up just a little bit. Whoop, there we go. Just a little bit, something subtle, nothing too crazy. Now, what I'm gonna try to do is with my brush, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna mask this girl out. And then I'm going to bring up the whites just a bit, the shadows, and maybe a little bit of the highlights. Maybe I'll decontrast her just a little bit to where the shadows and the darks and stuff like that aren't so harsh. Now, one thing that I usually do, and I've kind of learned over the years, is that if you squint your eyes, you will notice what will draw your eye in the image. So if something is bright and you're squinting your eyes and you're looking at that, then you know you need to tone that down because it's drawing your eye away from the one thing that you're wanting your viewer to look at, which is the girl in the pink jacket. So at this point in time, I'm looking and seeing that this little sign here is a little too bright. So I'm going to bring that down. I'm going to mask that out. Let's get rid of this auto mask. Make my life a little bit easier. Just quickly come over, bring this down. I'm going to bring the highlights down. I'm going to bring the whites down. I don't really want to just crush it and make it really fall away and make it be really, really dark because I want it to still be there. I just don't want your eyes to be drawn to it. So instead of making it look fake, I just want you to feel that the sign is there. I just don't want you to have to be like, oh, there's a bright sign. Maybe pump this blacks just a little bit and then push the shadows ever so slightly. Now, one of the last little touches here, let's get this gradient, or get a little, sorry, not a gradient, a circle mask here. And let's move it like that. And then I'm going to expose up just a little, and then I'm going to push a little bit of the dehaze. Nothing too crazy, just something a little small to give it that glowy feel, but not overdo it. It is a little bright on this girl's face, so I'm going to come in and just remove it from her face. Let's come down here to the HSL sliders. So I'm going to bring the oranges over, probably about right there, bring the yellows in. It's a little bit closer to the orange tones. Now with the greens, if you take a look at this area right here, you see that green color spill? It's kind of, it just looks wrong. So I'm going to bring the greens over a little bit more in line with the yellows. So that just doesn't look like any color fringing or doesn't look like a mistake. Then I'm gonna bring the blues, well, sorry, the aquas over to the blues, and then bring the blues over here just to add a little bit of green to them. Now the magentas is really in that jacket, so I'm just gonna kind of bring this here and maybe bring the purples over just a little bit to match that. Now with the saturation, I'm gonna bring the oranges down a little because the orange is so prevalent in this image, or sorry, the yellows are so prevalent in this image, and there are yellows that are mixed with, or oranges that are mixed with that, and I'm going to kind of tone it down so you're not really staring at that bright orange or yellow. Now that I'm looking at this, it seems like her face is a little too green, too cold looking. I kind of want to bring her back up to a more natural skin tone, just ever so slightly. One thing, if I squint and I'm taking a look at this and I notice that the girl, her hair and her head kind of blend in with that metal wall behind her, just something so subtle. I'm going to come in here, bright, or kind of make a little mask right behind her head. I'm going to bring the whites down just a little bit. Maybe bring the contrast up a little bit. There we go. Maybe bring the highlights down just a tick as well. Now, if you squint your eyes, you're taking a look at it, her entire face just pops off so much better. And it's so tiny, like you're not even gonna notice it if you're looking at it that I did that in the edit. So I think that's about it for that. I think I'm going to come down for final little touches. I'm gonna hold the Alt button, come to the masking and sharpening, and then I'm going to bring this over and then sharpen it just a little bit, and there we go. Yeah, actually, you know what? One final touch, I think what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna do another quick little brush over her face. And then I'm going to bring down the highlights ever so slightly. And then, let's see here, kind of hit some of these other highlights in this area really quick. Just kind of bring out some of the details just a little bit, because you don't want it to be super blown out. You want to see some of that detail. So we're starting to see the Adidas sign, or the Adidas logo. Yeah, that feels a lot better. Okay, I think that's going to do it for this image. So this is the before, and this is the after. If you learned anything out of this video, let me know in the comments. Also, if there is something that you want to learn about, or if there's another image you want me to edit, also let me know in the comments down below. And guys, that's going to do it for me. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I'd greatly appreciate it. Subscribe if you are not already, and I will see you in the next video. All right, see you later.